So welcome everybody. This is the second session in the three-part IET professional learning series this spring. Really nice to see everybody. Thanks for making time to join this morning. And the session today is going to be led by our favorite out-of-state trainer, Heather Turngren. Welcome, Heather, who's based in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, where she's both an adult ed instructor in the classroom and a PD trainer for the state there. So we're just thrilled to have her, to continue our relationship with her, and sort of her unique combination of expertise and experience, which is so beneficial, I think. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Sophie. And yeah, we call it PD here in Minnesota, although maybe we'll transition into what you all call it, professional learning, which I kind of like that. We're learning professionally and together. And here in Minnesota, we call it transitions as we transition students to college career, and especially within that IET frame, we're transitioning them to industry recognized credential holding that will get them sustainable wage jobs. So welcome everyone. I'm glad to be back here virtually with you all in Rhode Island. And it was great for me to join the session last week to learn a little bit more about the processes that you all have. Today, we're going to be focusing on IET as a way to support the communication of those SSLOs that are part of that process to your students. So we're hoping at the end of the webinar today that you'll be able to define or maybe review those key components for the integrated education and training, also known as IET, including the SSLO, which is the single set of learning objectives. We hope you can help us determine some of the key IET audiences that you all work with, also known as stakeholders, and share some of the interests that we all have with the focus on our learners or our students. And then we hope to be sharing with each other and learning with each other some communication and messaging examples that can help the learners in your IET know about the expectations and what they'll be learning throughout the course of the IET. So that's our goal today. And we're not a really large group, so I'm hoping that we can be engaged either in the chat or unmute and share. I like to learn with you and from you all. And we'll go and review those IET components. It's not a Friday morning quiz, but it's just to get our brains remembering what this IET entails. We'll take a look at different IET audiences, how we can message our IET, and then I really like to get my hands on different resources, and we have a few to share with you. So let's do a short review of those components that are mandated through WIOA that we include in our IET. But also, I don't like to always just say, hey, we have to do it, but there's a reason why they're included in our IET. So I want you to consider your understanding of IET, and there might be a few people who are new. So I thought we could do a low risk poll at the beginning. If you can launch the poll, I think Marie's going to be doing that, but I'd like you to answer with the poll. What are the three components of IET? And we'll have a quick poll for you to answer, and I'm hoping we can get 100% of you all to answer. It doesn't have to be correct, but wouldn't that be a feather in everyone's cap if we were all on the right spot?
Actually, we might have to have people answer that in the chat.
That is just fine because we have a plan A, B, and C because we're those awesome, flexible
Hang
adult
on.
educators.
I've got it here. Thank you. I'm sorry, folks.
Oh.
Okay, this one is about canceling school. And I don't
Sorry.
know if I should say yes or no.
Sorry, let me end
It's
it.
okay.
Let's go to the chat. Maybe
Yeah,
people can
I
people
think
Yeah.
people
name.
should just go ahead and answer in the chat, and I apologize for that.
Hey, that's all right. We'll put everyone even more on the spot. What are those three components? And you could give their acronyms. What do we have?
Or
Some
even
early,
one component.
yes. Okay. Oh, I think we're getting quite a few, right, Sophie? I see Kathy has workforce training, adult ed, and literacy, and workforce prep. I wish I could give you that gold star. And the same to Michelle. Liz, yes, you got it. Jason, Denise. Okay. Yeah, people seem to know these three components. We reiterate it over and over because they need to be happening simultaneously within your IET, and they're demonstrated through those SSLOs. So thanks for doing the poll in the chat. I see more people, Claudia and Siamala. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And all the Gales.
Yes,
You got
yeah.
it.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So these are those three required components. And adult ed and literacy, I say that's what we do best. We are adult educators. And I have an image of a textbook because a lot of it is around literacy, but also numeracy. It could be learning English as another language, family literacy, and also that civics preparation, which doesn't mean only passing and becoming a naturalized citizen, but it's also understanding maybe the different levels of government and such. Those are found within those CCRS skills, the standards for career and college readiness. But we also need to be including those workforce prep skills. Again, something that we do well in adult education. It's a lot of that teamwork. Sometimes it's around critical thinking, digital literacy, self management, employability skills. Those are sometimes the more difficult skills to be teaching because it is not as linear and direct as, say, math, but we use the employability skills framework to help us with those. And they're really important for our learners. And we need to include that workforce training, as you all mentioned. That can be a little bit more challenging for an adult educator like myself without that subject matter expertise. They like welding or grinding or something like that, but I can look to people to support me with that. It's occupational training, on the job training, incumbent worker training, a lot of buzz around apprenticeships and pre apprenticeships, as well as some of you all might be doing customized employer sponsored training. And a lot of those skills come from the industry or the sector specific skills. Say for healthcare, we're not defining what a CNA skills or standards are. That's been defined. We just support our learners with understanding those. So thank you all for that. And I just want to let you know that those three components are also required when you make that application for IET. And thanks to Chris, who I think joined us, for updating it with the most current template for you to be applying for your RIBEST. You need to add your workforce training skills right there in that column on the left. You'll be adding the workforce prep skills, the teamwork. I call those the essential skills that we use throughout any career field. And then you'll also be adding your adult education and literacy components. So you'll be adding what those components are, and then underneath you'll be inserting your SSLOs, which again are the single set of learning objectives. So we hope that today's session will help you if you are going to be filling out a new application. I want to pause for a moment to see if Sophie or Chris want to add anything about the application here, or does it seem to be okay?
Yeah, I don't think anything to add, just good to kind of, have it in front of us and a reminder of where these three required components show up um in our annual sort of required documentation. But I'm really proud of how all the providers in the Zoom showed up in the chat with the correct answers to the three required components. And I think that's really a sort of testament to the level of experience in the Zoom and the benefit of the professional learning we've done on the subject over the past years with your support, Heather. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. People know what they are, and then you can, it should be an easier process to put it right into that application. But that's
Yeah.
not the only reason we do it, friends. Just not to get that stamp, but there are benefits for doing this work. So I want you to consider and share the benefits. We've discussed some of them, but you might have some others to share about this collaborative integrated curriculum with those three required components. So, what is the benefit of having that? You could share in the chat. You could also unmute, but I'd like to hear from you all. Do you think there are benefits for including all of those components in this IET? And if so, what are they?
So yeah, and Heather, I'll just
Yeah.
add, really interested today in moving beyond the just like a compliance conversation about like here are the three required components. Like I know that we as a group understand what's required and what has to be put on the form, but trying to like think beyond that to like why are these required? Why is it beneficial to have adult education, workforce preparation, and workforce training represented within the integrated curriculum in a way that's balanced, that's delivered concurrently. What's the point? I think it's really interesting to like looking forward to talking about that with together and especially with you all as experienced providers.
Thanks. And I agree. And I agree with Dr. Buchanan, a highly skilled workforce. That is our goal, right? But we also know that some of the learners that come to our programming need that extra support that adult education professionals like you all give our learners. Liz says it allows us to serve a population that is often underrepresented. And I would say, yes, that is true. And this is allowing the IET to support those populations. So thank you for highlighting that, Liz.
Yeah, I love that
I'll share.
observation.
Yeah, and I do too, because it comes grounded back to why we're doing this in the first place. It's to support students and our learners. So I'll just move forward, but we also know that having that collaborative, integrated curriculum, bringing those three components, it is organized through that single set of learning objectives, and it is identifying exactly what students are going to be learning and expected to learn for the adult ed content standards, workforce prep, as well as workforce training. I like to think it really helps us to have something cohesive, and I don't, as a teacher, wander off into the weeds with my learners and spend an extra few weeks on something that I might think is really awesome, but is not needed for that IET. So it helps to keep us on track. It's more of a collaborative product, and it makes sure through mandated reporting that you're bringing in all of those key components represented in this triple Venn diagram with SSLO right in the middle there. So speaking about SSLOs, we'd like to find out what is uh, your background with making these SSLOs. So we're going to do an annotation feature. where you can click on the statement or the number that best represents you, and there's no judgment on our ends at all. This is just to find out where we all are. And one would be I have been part of the process in creating SSLOs. Number two, I have a basic understanding of how to create the SSLOs. Three would be I have created them. And four, we want to welcome everyone. We've got a big umbrella in adult ed. I am new to IET and SSLOs. All right, so you can click under the view options on your screen, select annotate, and it's going to trigger that menu on the side of your screen where you can get a different tool, maybe a heart, a check mark, an X. And let's have you all share where you are. I see, oh, I like the stars. I'm going to call you superstars this early in the morning. We have a basic understanding. We have people who have created SSLOs. Anyone else want to share? You've been part of the process. Okay, that's great to know that we have different levels of doing this. Anyone else?
Are folks having a hard time finding your stand? Oh, there we go. Okay.
And I say welcome, welcome, welcome to those who are new to IET and SSLO. Someone, oh, I like the check marks you've created. You have a basic understanding. And because we are at different levels of our direct work with the IETs, some of us might be managing, some of us might be providing the wraparound services, other people might be doing the direct instruction. So we have different ideas about understanding the SSLO process. But I see quite a variety here. So I want to share my thank you with you all for doing this. And I'm going to see if Marie is able to clear the screen. Okay. I have yet to learn that function in Zoom. One day I will, friends. But I don't use Zoom every day. So I'll leave it to an expert like Marie. Thank you. So let's go to the function of an SSLO. Why do we have to put it together? And for those of you who have created it, this will be a nice review for you, but just note there are some people who just have a basic understanding or who are new to IET, and it's great to support them along the way. This comes from page 63 of the IET Design Toolkit. This was a national project put on by ACTE a number of years ago to support states and programs like yourself with IET. So the first part of the SSLOs, you need to have your IET program goals. You are going to support students to move into employment with industry recognized credential, or as what Dr. Buchanan said, make that highly skilled workforce happen. Okay. But you need to have those goals because they help to set up your single set of learning objectives. You have to know what is that industry recognized credential, what are the steps to get there so that they can be incorporated into your SSLOs. Those are the skills that you're going to be including. You're going to be highlighting which ones are workforce training, adult ed, and workforce prep. And the SSLOs will then help you to determine what skills people have to do and what are those competencies that are needed throughout your IET. And then from there, I think that comes the fun part, okay? At least for me as an instructor, then I get to make that curriculum, design the units, the lessons, the really fun things, the nitty gritty activities so that students are learning all of this. It's what might be considered backward design. You start with the end in mind before you start creating those activities. And again, that IET Design Toolkit will be providing a link to that for you all. But anyone who's new to this, it's a long read, but you can just maybe go to page 63 to look at some of the more important aspects of SSLO. And Sophie, you laugh, but it is. It's like, I think over 200 pages now.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, we need the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah. And so those SSLOs, I wanted to give you an example that I use here in Minneapolis, but really across the river. Our sister city, St. Paul, we're the Twin Cities. And so this is the St. Paul College, a community college, and I work within the culinary arts program, um, and I do one portion of the training. Here in Minnesota, it is called the Certified Food Protection Manager Certification. It's similar, I think, to what you might be doing in Rhode Island, but we have to go a step further and we have to get an actual license from the state of Minnesota, our Department of Health. And by getting that license or certificate, I can take 10 different tests. The one that most people use is ServSafe because it is the most recognized. They spend millions of dollars for us to say
Hmm.
ServSafe, but it's really the Certified Food Protection Manager certification. And this is the SSLO that I made for one unit. So I call it an integrated learning objective, ILO, because it's just for one unit. I have 7 units in my IET, and this is the first unit. It's about 2 weeks long. And I am showing you here integrated learning objective. And the first unit is focused on foodborne illnesses. That's part of the CFPM. So I say students will demonstrate their knowledge of the 6 most common foodborne illnesses and how to prevent them from occurring by stating the critical control points after conducting a hazard analysis and by filling out a mock incident report for regulatory documentation with 80% accuracy. That is a mouthful. It's one learning objective that spans, again, a unit of about 2 weeks of study. It is a lot. However, if I break it down, I can show you how I integrated those 3 components. And by breaking it down, I'm a visual learner, friends. I put a lot of color there. So please bear with me. I was trying to find color that would pop out for you all. So you can see the blue is I'm using the adult literacy components. So you can see, I say they're going to have the knowledge, okay? And that is actually implied that they're reading about the illnesses. So sometimes our adult ed components might be implied. And then I say they're going to be stating. So there are some of those speaking and listening skill standards from CCRS. They're also going to be filling out. So they're going to be writing things. Okay. So it's implied that they've had some basic literacy skills. Now, the workforce prep I put in red, and these are skills that are needed across almost any industry sector, in education, in hospitality, in healthcare. And that's filling out incident reports or some sort of reporting system. So, yes, they need the adult ed skills, the writing skills to fill that out, but actually filling out an incident report would be workforce prep.
Hmm.
And then you can see there's a lot of purple, okay? And it's not because of the Minnesota Vikings, but it's because of the workforce skills. We have those 6 most common foodborne illnesses that they learn about from reading and how to prevent them, that they're learning through the adult ed component of reading, and they're thinking critically about those critical control points and making a hazard analysis, and then using the regulatory documentation for the state. So it could differ from state to state. My condition is that they have to have that incident report form. So I use a Google form just so it's easier for me to see what might be missing. And I also want to have what are the requirements for passing. They have to have those forms filled out with 80% accuracy. Now, if I was in healthcare, I might choose to up that to 100% because we're dealing with human lives, but it really depends on what that learning objective is.
Hmm.
I want to pause for a moment to see if there's any question about my colors or how I combine this. Does it make sense to folks? Could do a thumbs up, maybe an emoji if like, yeah, I got it, or this is confusing. Kathy, you got it. Great. Um,
Well, oh, I just had a quick question
oh, okay. I thought you were
because,
saying I got it. Okay, what's a good question?
well, it makes perfect sense, and I love how you did it color coding. But when we're doing our plan or application, we're doing a single set of learning objectives for the whole program. We're not doing it by units. So, and I think, that's where I've always struggled. I always compare it to like creating a thesis statement for the program, but is it my understanding it's an overarching SSLO for the whole program, right, Sophie? When we come,
It's a
when we
yeah,
put it,
it's a great
sorry,
question, Kathy. I'm sorry also. mm, I think the it seems like the connection might be a little choppy.
did I cut out?
Um, no, I think I can hear you okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay. So, yeah, it's a great question, and I think I'm just gonna like kind of frankly acknowledge that it's something that we here at Ride have also sort of grappled with because totally see the challenge of trying to like it almost feels like it's asking a lot. Like it's asking for this one sentence theoretically to do so much, right? To sort of like capture the overarching program goals, and then also provide evidence of all three of the required components. It feels like some kind of a strange, like a word problem or something. Um, so we're a little flexible on that. Like for ride documentation purposes, we are open to you providing either a program level statement, that SSLO, right? Or something that's more at a unit level, like the example that Heather shared here, which she's calling ILO, right? So um either either is fine with us. We're just our main focus is on sort of evidence of the three required components being integrated.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Sophie.
Sophie.
Can I just jump in real quick on that one?
Please do welcome at Exchange.
That was always my understanding that we were just putting in examples of sections of SSLOs. So like I have three in each of mine, but like maybe two in some. I'm not sure, but I never went to say this is the whole program. I always said, oh, this is a section of the program. And this is a section of the program.
Yeah. No, appreciate you sharing that, Jason. And yes, we're flexible on that because we appreciate the challenge. Um, just looking for the evidence. And I see Sherilyn Genesis Center has its hand raised.
Um, I think from my last training on SSLOs is that I noticed here you have 80% accuracy. We have to include some kind of outcome measure as well.
Yeah, really ideally looking for some measurable outcome, right? So like the 80% accuracy on the form completion in this example. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Sherilyn.
Yeah, friends, I have 7 ILOs that make up my SSLO. I use a core textbook from SurfSave that has 10 chapters. Some of those chapters can be combined, but it helps me know I'm going to first focus on this, and then next it's going to be focusing on personal hygiene, and then next it's going to focus on times and temperatures. So I have different ILOs for each focus of study. I do have this 80% accuracy as my way throughout those first 2 weeks to know if students need a little bit more support. I wouldn't want to do only having 80% accuracy at the end because maybe they missed something at the beginning. So I can also use this as milestones to report how many people in the first 2 weeks were able to complete that SSLO with 80% accuracy. So that helps me for reporting, but more importantly, it helps me to identify gaps that students might have. so that they can be successful in the overall IET. So there is a rubric that is part of the IET design toolkit that might be helpful for you. We're not going to go into it too much, but you can use this to help determine if your SSLO is weak, medium, or strong. Okay, so you're going to look at the criteria listed on the far left in each row, and then you will determine whether or not your SSLO is meeting that. Are you having the three required components? Are you demonstrating that there's a relationship between them? Is there a condition for the students to be demonstrating that they can do that SSLO? Is there criteria or that measurable outcome? And is the expectations for learners clearly described using action verbs so students know what to do? If you just say, learn this, how do I learn? You need to tell them exactly what to do. Fill out that form. All right. And thanks for sharing that in the chat. So that ILO that you use, or SSLO, it's going to clearly articulate what the learners will know and be able to do for each unit of content, or maybe, as you say, that overarching theme. But if I was a learner, I want to know what's expected from me almost every week or every 2 weeks. It also helps to ensure that you are aligning those three components within your IET. It's going to help you with having those contextualized lesson plans. And it's going to be a great launching point for you to get to messaging and communication, which is what we're going to try to delve into next. But that ILO will really help you. There's no magic number here in Minnesota. We recommend 6 to 8 because you have to measure the outcomes for every ILO. So if you have 23, all you're going to be doing is measuring, right?
Wow.
So you want to really focus on the core content that you're able to measure. And I'm going to see if anyone has great questions or reflections about the components or SSLO. And I so appreciate that Sophie is here to answer some of the good questions.
And this was just, I hope this is a helpful sort of like review or activation of your prior knowledge about SSLOs and ILOs. But again, today sort of our hope is to shift kind of focus our discussion on like not so much compliance or meeting a definition as thinking about sort of the the like functionality of the SSLO, like how can this be used? And I think that's an interesting shift because I think to this point, as a cohort, our conversations about SSLOs have been very sort of definition and compliance focused. So
Yeah, I agree. And it's not just Rhode Island. Here in Minnesota, people think, oh, just tell me, give me the SSLO and I'll put it there so I can get that stamp and I can do my IET. But the SSLO does so much more, friends, and that's what we want to get into. So we're going to look at those key IET audiences that you might have for your IET or your RIBEST. So who are some of the audiences or stakeholders that you have for your IET? They could also be potential audiences for anyone who maybe doesn't have an IET. Could you share in the chat? Right, yes.
but that's a great one, Chris. Other state agencies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And show them what we do. Yeah. How we
I
connect
think,
to other systems. Yeah.
yeah,
Really important, especially in with all the funding happening right now or not happening, right?
that's
We
right.
do good things. Employers, yeah, that's a big portion of our audiences. And thank you for sharing. Here are some of my considerations that I have. Students, okay, I like to put that first. We're here to serve students, right? But they're an audience. If you have potential students coming in, message them about your IET. Those workforce training partners, I don't know how to weld. They know how to weld, so I need to work with them so that I can help students learn how to weld with the AE support that I can provide. But also your community partners. They can help with wraparound services, your funders, okay, like RIDE and other places, depending on where you're getting your funding. Employers, as you all noted, okay, but also the other teaching staff and advising staff, so they might know if your IET is a good place for referrals. I think about my colleagues before they just called my class, oh, it's the cooking class. I don't teach cooking at all, okay? But this is why helping the other teachers know what we're doing, they can better prepare learners getting into an on-ramp or a bridge class, okay? All right. Okay. Friends, something just happened with my screen. Are you seeing a screen?
We're seeing a beautiful landscape. It's
Okay, and I don't know what happened. 1 second. Something happened. Where did it go? It's here someplace.
we can swap if we need to.
Uh, this, I'm going to stop sharing and reshare. Is that okay? Here we
Great.
go. How's that? There it is. Okay, now you see that. Thank you. I don't know. I
That's
must
good.
have clicked something. So those are our audiences, okay? And thank you for that moment of wondering, what did I click? So what would be the benefits for you to share your SSLOs with those different audiences? Could you share in the chat? Why would you want to share your SSLOs with those different audiences? And you could raise your hand, you can type in the chat. Clarity and feedback. Yes, I totally agree, Michelle. Important for stakeholders to understand how all three components are embedded. Yes, some stakeholders, like RIDE, they're looking for that, right? Oh, Claudia, I love that. It gives a snapshot of what the program is about. Exactly. It's helping with that. So for students, they get a clear roadmap of what they're going to be learning. What is this all about? So it's not at the very end that, say, a CNA student realizes, oh my gosh, I have to do what to people, right? They before they make that road, okay? Those workforce training partners, they can prepare the students with that technical training that I might not have that expertise to do. For our community partners, they know what's needed, that they can help to provide those wraparound services. Maybe it's a bus card, maybe it's counseling or job readiness skills like mock interviews. The funders, we are letting RIDE know that we're doing all of this with those three required components. Employers, benefit with that curriculum. They also could help add to the curriculum because they know what is needed in their workforce. And the other teaching and advising staff can really help learners align their career goals with the different IETs that are in focus. I'm hoping those are something that you might agree with for benefits of sharing the SSLOs with our key audiences or stakeholders. So, do you have any questions about IET audiences or stakeholders? We'll just take a moment. Would you agree those are some of the audiences you have?
Yeah, that's one of the things that's just additional, like, IET is such a resource intensive model, and one of the pieces is that it's the stakeholders there's so many more stakeholders than you might have for a traditional community based ESOL class or GED class. There's the employer piece as well as the students, as well as perhaps potentially a training partner. Um, I think it's really impressive the way that our grantees manage those relationships, build them and manage them. So
Yeah, and I agree. And they get really great support from you folks at RIDE to do that, because it's not just a single class, like you're going to learn English, see you tomorrow. No, you have to bring in all these other components.
May I also add?
Yeah.
Too late. Oh, I think
Oh,
also
no.
not. So with all the audiences, especially with the SSLO, I feel like it's a really good way to also ensure that our partner, so the employer partner, or whoever we're working with outside of the students, like everyone is on the same page.
yeah.
So like you mentioned that other departments like the wraparound service, they'll be able to read it and see specifically what is going to be offered. And so when they're giving advice to students, like they can say, all right, based on what you told me, this would be the best program for you. Because a lot of times students will come in and they're like, oh, I just want to do a training. They have no idea what they want to do. They just want to do something. So in that case, that would be awesome. But then the employer, the other partners, they're like, all right, this is the program that we want. This is what we want them to be able to do when they come to us. And so having that SSLO will actually tie in everything together. And if we have a good relationship, then that will ensure that we're sending them the types of employees that they need. And that will also strengthen us actually being able to provide the program year after year.
Yeah.
That was a lot, but yeah.
It's a virtuous cycle or something, right? Like ideally you've got a strong communicative relationship with your employer partners, which feeds your IET program content, including your SSLOs, and produces graduates who are what the employer is looking for, and kind of allows you to build that partnership. Is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, it's a nice, beautiful, a lovely cycle when it's done right.
Yeah. Yeah. So much work. So
Always
much work.
when it's done when it's done right. It is a lot of work, but students have jobs that they want. Employers have really highly skilled employees, and we feel really good about it because we made that connection. I'm going to move us forward, but keep up these really great comments and ideas. We'll focus on communication and messaging examples. And our first example, we want to come from you. So Marie's going to put a link in the chat that's going to bring you up to a Padlet. And in the Padlet, I'm going to say student choice and voice, okay? So you get to decide which statement or question you want to answer. We want to hear from you. It is anonymous, or it should be, unless maybe you signed in through Google. But you could answer these questions on how do you communicate the value of IET and expectations to students. So what are you doing now? How do you communicate the learning objectives, or those SSLOs, to the IET students? And do you currently share your SSLOs with students? And what could possibly be the benefit of sharing the SSLOs with students? So there is a QR code. If you're on a phone, that might be easier that way. But let's hear from you. And I'll take a moment to look at the Padlet. All right, I'm gonna see if I can get to the Padlet. So let's see if this works. Oops, we're gonna go back. I had it all set up. We'll see if it still is there. Can you all see this? Are you seeing my screen, the Padlet? I'll see if I can do a refresh. Do we have anyone writing? Are you able to get into the Padlet? Oh, I see a thinking I see the
Yeah,
dots up here as I tell students, someone's thinking about writing.
yeah,
They're there, and we'll have to
we are
click on,
we
is
are
it
able.
working?
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia. Just click on the plus sign to add a comment. And maybe you want to read what your colleagues have to say. I wonder, oh, no, I can't. I thought I was going to be able to like some of these, but it's not allowing.
Really interested to hear, to kind of see if people are sharing currently with students or, even if it's in different forms. I'm honestly like, uh, was skeptical that maybe people were even bringing these SSLOs into the real world, apart from sort of fulfilling them as a compliance exercise. So that's, I'm really interested to see that.
Yeah, I see someone's using a syllabus there and explaining about the program. Well, I'm interested about this student passport tracker. I've never heard of that, but that my mind just thinks, wow, that's amazing that students are maybe keeping track of their own progress, which is whoa.
Yeah, we use that at
OMG.
Amos House. It basically breaks out all program components, and the students are responsible for tracking them themselves and getting sign-offs from instructors on completing components.
Wow, how about that for self-management and also those transferable skills to the workplace? No
Hmm.
one's going to tell you, right? You got to do it yourself. Wonderful.
Michelle, when you say components, I'm assuming that's not like necessarily the three required IET components, but can you give
It
some
is
examples? It
actually,
is
yeah.
it?
So it breaks
Oh,
out every class component for our workforce essentials, which is all the essential skill building, resume, workforce expectations. Then they have a passport that's specific for certification round, and then they have a passport for their hands-on training with all of the key components that they need to complete to finish internship.
wow. That is great. The students know what they are expected to do and they keep track of it. That is I'm shout out. I'm already thinking about how I could do something similar. That's great. Oh, some more people with the syllabus. I want to thank you for sharing in the Padlet. The Padlet, keep that link. It will stay open for as long as I can. I'm using the free version. I only have 3, but this is number 1. Okay, so I'll keep it as long as I can. But maybe I'll take a screenshot to share with you, Chris and Sophie, so that you have this and then really wonderful examples.
Yeah.
Thank you, friends, for sharing. And because of time, I'm going to move us forward. I'm hoping you can see this because I do want to spend time having you consider um, communication or messaging. So I showed you my ILO for the Certified Food Protection Manager course. And I'm wondering, how would you change this so that it would be more friendly for the students to understand? Because I could put this on a syllabus or I could put it as my learning objective for class, but some of my students might not know this language yet, right? So, how could I put it into a more um, user friendly for the learners or the students? And you could put something in the chat. You could also raise your hand if you want to just talk it through. Um, I'll let you know. Please be a critical friend. This was for the compliance training that we have here in Minnesota. So, which doesn't say put it in student friendly language. So I am open to anything.
So how do we translate this into sort of plain English that's accessible?
Yes.
Is that what you're okay?
Yeah, that students would understand. And of course, depending on your level, right? For this class, students are no longer ESOL students in our program. They're high school equivalency level. So they've moved from CASAS to TABE testing in our program. Oh, Michelle, you will learn the 6 most common foodborne illnesses and be able to fill out an incident report. Yeah, we don't need all of those other things. They don't need to know 80% maybe until the end when they're filling out that form. They might not need to know about critical control points. Yeah, call it a unit goal. Yes, I like that, Sophie. So you can see there's different ways that you could be making this easier for messaging to learners. So we're going to focus on that right now. Messaging to students or learners. And what we're going to do is have you focus on messaging your learners with your SSLOs. So we are going to go into breakout rooms, give you time to think about how you're going to communicate or message the SSLOs that you have right now with students. You can choose to do this individual or in a paired group. If you're with a whole group, I think Genesis, you said, was well represented. You might want to work together other places, but we do have breakout rooms that you can focus on your current SSLOs. Consider how you're going to change it for a student audience. And we also have an opportunity for those who are new to IET to work with some SSLOs that we have as examples. So you get to practice. So use one SSLO from your IET to discuss in your breakout room. Would a student in your IET understand it as it's currently written? What is that ILO really asking students to do? How would you rewrite it in that plain language or real world context and using a first person voice, perhaps? I can fill out a form, okay? And then please be ready to share in the process. We just want to know how this works for you. After you build up this huge, beautiful SSLO, and it's now almost like you're deconstructing it to deliver to the students, but that's what we do best in adult ed. So we have 4 rooms. It's all about choice today, right? You get to choose the room that Marie created. The first room will be for anyone working in a healthcare IET. And then you're going to be using your own SSLOs to try to refine them for a student voice. Number 2 would be anyone in an education IET. And then again, you're focused with your own SSLOs. Hospitalities will be in breakout room 3, using your own SSLOs. And anyone new to IET will choose to work in breakout room 4, and we'll share a link for you in the chat to access an SSLO, and you can type right on that document, okay? If that is how you do that sort of work. All right. So I think Marie is going to show the breakout rooms. Correct,
Unmute.
Marie?
And I also, sorry, just wanted to note that I also put those links for the folks who are in the new IET. They're in the chat now, so you can grab those.
I think most people are back. So we'd like to know, how did it go? You can choose one of these questions to answer. Um, what was easy about it? Maybe what was difficult or challenging? Where might you need more support? Um, I'd love to hear if anyone was able to reframe it into a more student-centered statement. So please unmute and share.
Yeah, really interested if anyone's willing to come off mute, read your original, and then read your student-friendly version. Hey, Liz.
I'm not going to do that because I don't have it in front of me, but I guess I want to say that I feel like this exercise is inherently challenging because the SSLO is by definition an extremely long, detailed sentence with all these components. And when you try to simplify that for a student, it's like we took stuff out to make it more understandable to oh yeah, someone Denise is basically saying the exact same thing, like to make it understandable to a student, then we then are not covering all three components. Like it's just not possible to make it both simple and have all the stuff that needs to be in there, unless maybe somebody else is a better wordsmith than I am. But I'm like, this doesn't actually seem to work. So that's just my take. And I will say I'm often the negative Nancy who's like sees the problems and things and not the solution. So take what I say with a grain of salt.
So the question is it even possible to have a statement that is both compliant and student friendly? Is that right?
Yeah, may I just
Great.
ask, being, I guess I was the newbie in the room, but it felt like I was not the only newbie in the room trying to do this together. But I think looking at these questions that were asked, number three says, where might you need more support? And I think that's where support is going to be needed because having to simplify it and adding all those, components in one sentence and thinking about the students that you are selling it to or you're explaining it to is quite a bit of a challenge, I would say.
Can I piggyback on that? So the way I see it is that this is not a requirement to reword SSLOs to give to students. We can do it in different ways in our classroom, which is by simply going over, here's what you're going to learn today, or here's what we're doing, or having a syllabus if you want to go that way. I will also be the negative in the room. Like it's an interesting, practice here, but I'm not sure I would put it to use in a classroom.
I was gonna ask if we need all three components for the student piece of it. That's what I was wondering. Because if not, it's definitely it would be better to explain to the students. I mean, the whole idea is to make it to simplify it so that they know. And if we need to put all three components in it, is it even possible? Is it necessary? That's the next question as well.
You all, and I wanted to just say, Jason and Liz, you to me are not negative. You are actually positive people because you're looking at trying to find a solution. And to me, that's positive, not negative. So I like to say that I appreciate it. And I also appreciate what you were saying, Dr. Buchanan, because for me, and I'm speaking from Minnesota, Minneapolis, okay, different regulations, that it's not a requirement, as Jason said. And so for me, I don't need to make students aware that we're integrating those three components because they might not even know that there's three components, to be honest. They're just like, I want this certificate, I want this. So, but I think the value comes that students need to know what they're expected to do and what they are going to be learning. And that is where it comes, I think, to be really beneficial for learners. I'm wondering, Sophie, if this isn't a requirement, right? It's not going to be mandated that they're student friendly, but it's just the idea of messaging it.
Yeah, no, I think these are all super valid questions naming actual challenges. And this isn't a mandate. This isn't a requirement. This isn't a compliance exercise. This is more thinking about like kind of thinking back to some of the comments that I saw in the chat earlier in the meeting, just that, uh, the value of kind of being transparent with students about like these are the expectations within this course. Um, thinking about principles of andragogy and kind of being clear from the beginning of like this is why we're doing this. And this is and another comment that I really liked earlier, and I don't remember who said it, was something around like maybe it was from the Padlet, something around like uh, you know, kind of making clear to students like this is what's different about this course, right? Like this is not just your usual CNA training, but this CNA training incorporates, for example, some of the math you're going to need for the job or whatever. Like, so I think that's another, thing to think about. But I appreciate the pragmatic comment about like, no, you don't have to, it's not a challenge of like, how are we going to incorporate all three of the required components in plain language within a single sentence in a way that's useful, because I agree that's not I think it's a fool's errand. I don't think that's really feasible or desirable necessarily. It's not what we're working toward. It's more about the sort of just that thinking to the value of kind of bringing in, we put so much thought and effort into the development of the course, and kind of bringing that to the students and sharing it with the students.
Yes, and I did see Dr. Buchanan, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just also going to add that Sophie mentioned andragogy, and just thinking about trainings that I do with or facilitators, and that's one of the things that's usually mentioned, that every class that students are going to be are instructed on what you're going to be doing today. So it's a good practice for us to break it down. I feel like it helps our brain to wrap around the whole SSLO process much better, and like makes it come more naturally, but also knowing that our teachers or instructors will be doing this with the students. At least each class will say, all right, this is what we'll be working on. And some already it was already shared. I think Amos just mentioned that they do have a passport with the students. So if it's not a requirement, that's awesome. But it's also good to know that we are already doing it,
Yeah.
In our programs. So kudos both ways, all the way around.
Yeah, I love some of the examples people have volunteered that their programs are already doing, and um I think this is where we're all coming from as experienced adult educators. I don't want to assume, right? Like don't want to assume, oh, I assume everybody does this because we are adult educators, but I think that like Jason named probably, and Dr. Buchanan mentioned, like, in the class day to day, likely this is a part of what, sort of the conversation is, the instructor saying, okay, this is what we're working on, this is why we're working on it, right? So I hope I guess I just hope that the conversation today hasn't been something that's only raised that's brought the difficulties and the challenges top of mind, but I hope that you can also just really want to like focus on the opportunity and the value of trying to be intentional in communication with students, and would love to follow up uh and share out some of the examples from your programs with the group by email after the meeting, thinking about the syllabuses that a couple of you mentioned and the student passport over at Amos House. So we'll follow up by email about that.
Wonderful, Sophie. This whole discussion, I think, also could be framed around how would a student tell a friend what they're studying? I took a bus yesterday and we passed by the Minneapolis College, and two students were trying to talk about what class are you in? What class are you in? Just like that elevator speech. I'm in a CNA class. What are you learning? So just so that they know what they're learning, right? And they can articulate that with a friend who could be that potential next cohort enrollment. So I want to thank you all for working in the breakout rooms together and sharing. And thank you, Sophie, for saying that it's not compliant, it's just having you think about it. I liked for you to think about those SSLOs. They're not just going to be that three-ring binder compliance sitting on a shelf, but you can use them to highlight your IET and the great work that you're doing and that students are doing as well. So we'll do a quick wrap up. There are different resources, and Maria's putting the links in the chat. One is that IET Design Toolkit. It's still on the links website. It's fantastic. A lot of information if anyone's new to IET and you want to learn everything there is. There's also the IET resource repository. I checked this last week. It's still up on the links website through Octave, but they do have different repositories with links that should be open and free for adult educators to be using. And then the link for Rhode Island Adult Education, Professional Learning Community. And I think this is going to be for Sophie describing what we'll be doing in 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is just a friendly reminder. I want to say thank you to everybody who's already signed up. But our last session of this series will be in 2 weeks' time on Friday, May 1st. And, we really kind of envision this as an opportunity to talk. Well, we want to focus on continuing with the theme of communicating about the value of our work, thinking about the different stakeholder groups and how we tailor our message to them and their interests. Next session will be focused on communicating about the value of IET with employers and industry partners. So we shared this information previously, but our hope is to have sort of a virtual roundtable conversation, building on the expertise in the room around working with employers locally, just kind of sharing out. This is what we do. So learning from each other. We've prepared a list of, I think there's like 5 topics, and we're looking for each IET provider to sign up for at least one of the topics. And we're sharing them in advance so that you feel comfortable and prepared to come to the meeting ready to share out informally for a couple of minutes about, this is what this looks like at your program. And hopefully it'll be a catalyst for some more conversation about, what does it look like at other programs, and, how can we have an aligned approach as a system, perhaps. So
thank you. And thank you all. I echo Sophie in signing up in advance. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm looking at the time. You got this with IET because you're doing it, friends. And I want to thank you for spending some time with me. I also love critical feedback, so you can take a moment to complete that evaluation. And I like to let people know that really your evaluations help to inform future professional learning opportunities. So if there's something specific that you need, let people know. And Maria is going to send an email with the slides. I'm not sure about a recording, but we'll also have the links to the Padlet, I think, in there.
that's great. Yep. And and we'd love to see some samples of what, materials you already use to communicate about the IET goals with your students. So we'll follow up by email.
Yeah, and thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great weekend, everybody.
Have a good
Yes.
weekend.
Take care.
You too.
Good to
Take
see
care,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all for participating. You too, Dr. Buchanan. And Bonnie, I think you were the new person, and I do appreciate your comment that you might not have been the only new person in doing this work.
We do have IETs that have been established already. I just haven't done one myself. So, I mean,
okay.
But I do have a really good framework because the person who was here before me did a wonderful job. But for myself, I'd like to know more about it. And I'm 6 months in to the job now, so it's time, I should learn a little bit more. And I'd like to set up a one-on-one with you. Chris and Sophie suggested that, so I would love to do that.
Thanks, Bonnie. We really appreciate your like making brain space for this in the midst of everything else you're juggling, inheriting a program. So we'll definitely follow up. I think I sent an email yesterday, but we'll follow up and set up a time with Heather. I think it'll be helpful.
Yeah, I think that'll be great for both Cheyenne and for me, to move forward. We're going through a little bit of a staff. Some people are leaving. Two of the staff are leaving, so our time is a little crazy right now. But absolutely, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Move forward.
No. Yeah, totally, Bonnie. It's not urgent on our side. Like, understand that you're in some transition always, but really appreciate, again, just in the midst of everything else, appreciate your openness to this.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm open to anything you will suggest. You too, Marie, to get me going.
We're here to support.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
Bonnie.